The alien village was quiet under the pale moon. Strange trees with glowing leaves swayed in the cold wind, and the houses built from stone and crystal shone faintly in the darkness. Inside one of those houses, a mother slept with her daughter, curled close to her chest. The night seemed peaceful, but something was wrong. The child stirred, her small body trembling. She opened her wide, glowing eyes and whispered in a weak voice, "Mom, something grows on my back." Her words were so soft they almost drowned in the sound of the wind outside. But the mother's heart caught the sound like a sharp knife. The alien mother, her skin marked with silver patterns, sat up quickly. She looked down at her daughter with worry. The child's face was pale, her breath uneven. The mother placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and asked, "What do you mean, little star?" The girl turned away slightly, fear in her eyes. "It hurts. Mom, something is moving under my skin." The mother's pulse raced. She pulled her daughter closer to the lamp's dim light. The child turned slowly, revealing her back. At first the mother saw nothing, but then her breath froze. Faint glowing lines spread across the child's spine like roots of light crawling beneath her skin. The shapes pulsed dim then bright, as if alive. Fear washed over the mother. She had heard whispers of old tales, legends about strange marks that appeared on children. The elders called them curses. Some said they were signs of ancient spirits returning. Others claimed they brought sickness and death to the family. The mother had always dismissed those stories, but now her own daughter bore the mark. She tried to steady her hands, but they shook as she touched the child's back. The skin was warm, almost burning. The girl winced and cried softly, "Make it stop, Mom, please." The mother's throat tightened. Her heart ached at the helplessness in her daughter's voice. She whispered, "I will protect you no matter what this is." But even as she spoke, her mind was drowning in questions she could not answer. The night dragged on. Shadows stretched across the small room. The mother did not sleep. She held her daughter tightly, rocking her back and forth. Outside, the village was silent, but she felt the weight of danger pressing in. What if the villagers found out? What if the council of elders demanded to see the child? They would never understand. They would take her daughter away, or worse, the child drifted in and out of restless sleep, sometimes whispering nonsense, sometimes crying out in pain. The glowing patterns on her back grew brighter each time she shivered. The mother pressed her forehead against her daughter's hair, tears falling silently. She had lived through hunger, war, and storms, but nothing had ever broken her spirit. Like this night near dawn, the first rays of light touched the horizon. The mother opened the window slightly, letting in the cool air. The sky was painted in shades of blue and violet. Her daughter stirred again and clutched her arm. "Mom, don't let them see." The words were half a plea, half a dream, but they stabbed into the mother's heart. The child was afraid of the world outside, and the mother knew she was right to be. The sound of footsteps echoed faintly from the street. Below, neighbors waking, voices rising, the start of another day. The mother closed the window quickly. She wrapped her daughter in a thick cloth, hiding the strange glow. Her mind raced. She could not tell anyone, not even her closest friend. Secrets in this village never stayed hidden for long. Her daughter's whisper repeated in her mind like an echo. "Something grows on my back." The mother felt her knees weaken. She leaned against the wall, clutching her chest. She wanted to scream, to cry, to call the stars for help. But she forced herself to stay silent. If she broke, her child would break too. That morning, the village bells rang, calling families to gather in the square. The mother froze. She could not let her daughter go outside, not today. Not with the marks glowing brighter, she whispered to her child, "Stay close to me no matter what happens." The girl nodded weakly, her small hands clutching her mother's robe. The mother looked into her daughter's glowing eyes and felt a storm rising inside her. She did not know what was happening. She did not know why the old stories had come alive in her home. But she knew one thing. She would fight the whole village, the whole world, if it meant keeping her daughter safe. As the sun rose higher, the mother held her child in her arms and whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." The morning sun rose over the alien village. Its light touched the rooftops of crystal, houses, and spilled across narrow stone streets. The voices of neighbors filled the air, men and women greeting each other as if the day was just like any other. But inside one small house, silence and fear pressed heavy on the air. The mother sat beside her daughter, watching her breathe. The girl looked pale, her small frame weak from a restless night. The mother wanted to believe it had only been a nightmare, that the glowing shapes on her daughter's back had been some strange trick of light. But deep inside, she knew it was real. The child stirred and whispered, "Mom, it hurts again." Her eyes shimmered with fear. The mother swallowed hard and pulled the cloth away from her daughter's back. What she saw made her heart pound faster. The glowing patterns were clearer now, no longer faint lines but shapes spreading wider. They looked like living roots pulsing slowly with a rhythm of their own. Her hands trembled as she touched the strange mark. The skin felt hot, almost alive. The girl winced and turned her face into the pillow, trying not to cry. "Don't be afraid," the mother whispered, though her own voice shook. She tried to hide her fear, but inside she felt a storm building. Memories returned to her mind, stories whispered by the elders long ago. They spoke of cursed children, of marks that meant doom for their families. Some said the marks called spirits of destruction. Others claimed the child would bring plague and death to the whole village. These stories had always seemed like myths, but now those shadows lived in her home. She stood and paced the small room, pulling her hands through her long dark hair. Should she tell the healer? Should she hide her daughter? Every choice seemed dangerous. If she revealed the mark, the council might take the girl away. If she hid it, rumors could destroy them both. The mother turned back to her daughter and made a decision. She could not trust anyone, not yet. She would watch, she would learn, and she would protect her child until she understood what this mark truly was. That day, the mother dressed her daughter carefully, wrapping her in layers of soft cloth to hide the glow. "Stay close to me," she whispered as they stepped outside. The streets were crowded with villagers carrying food baskets and water. Yes, the smell of baked roots and roasted grain filled the air. To everyone else it was a normal morning, but to the mother it felt like walking through fire. Neighbors smiled and greeted her. "Good morning, Irene," they said, calling her by name. She forced herself to smile back, holding her daughter's hand tightly. Every glance from others felt like a knife. What if they saw the faint light hidden under the cloth? What if someone noticed her daughter's stiff movements? As they passed the well in the center of the village, a group of children ran by, laughing. One of them bumped into the girl. The child gasped in pain, clutching her back. The mother pulled, her close, her heart pounding. "Careful," she snapped at the boy. He looked startled and ran off. The other villagers glanced their way, curious. The mother quickly turned and hurried home. Once inside, she closed the door and leaned against it. Her breath came fast. The girl looked at her with wide, scared eyes. "They almost saw, Mom," she whispered. The mother knelt and hugged her. "No one will see my star. I will not let them." That night, the mother lit a small lamp and studied the mark again. It had changed. The glowing roots now curved into patterns, almost like symbols. They reminded her of the carvings on the old temple stones, the ones no one was allowed to read anymore. A chill spread down her spine. Could her daughter be carrying something ancient, something forbidden? The girl stirred in her sleep, whispering words the mother did not understand. Her small body shivered as if she was caught between dreams and pain. The glow on her back grew brighter, filling the small room with light. The mother covered her, quickly with a heavy blanket, terrified someone outside might notice. Her mind raced with questions. Was this mark a curse or a gift? Was her daughter in danger, or was the village in danger from her? She pressed her forehead against the cold wall and tried not to cry, but tears came anyway. The weight of the unknown was too heavy. By dawn, her decision grew stronger. She could not keep her daughter here, not when the mark was spreading so fast, not when every villager's eye could turn against them, she whispered to herself. If the council learns the truth, they will take her away. They will say it is for the good of the village, but I know it will be her end. The child opened her glowing eyes and reached for her mother's hand. "Don't leave me, Mom," she whispered weakly. The mother kissed her forehead and whispered back, "Never? I will never leave you." Outside, the village bells rang again, calling people to gather, but the mother stayed inside, holding her daughter close. She knew the time was coming when she would have to make the hardest choice of her life. But for now, in this moment, she clung to her child, whispering promises she was not sure she could keep. And in the silence of their small home, the hidden mark pulsed like a heartbeat, a secret growing brighter with every breath. The morning began like any other in the alien village. The smell of fresh bread drifted through the narrow streets. Children chased each other past the stone houses, and the sound of the bell echoed across the valley. But inside Irene's heart, nothing felt normal. She held her daughter's hand tighter than ever, hiding her trembling behind a forced smile. For 2 days she had hidden the strange glow spreading on her daughter's back. Each night it grew clearer. Each night the pattern shone brighter. She prayed no one would notice, but fear whispered in her ear that secrets never stayed secrets. For long that morning, whispers had already begun. When Irene walked to the market square, she noticed heads turning. Villagers glanced at her daughter, who moved stiffly under the layers of cloth. The child kept her eyes down, her small hands clutching her mother's robe. A woman selling grain leaned toward another villager and whispered, "Something is wrong with that child. Can you see the way she walks?" The other one nodded, frowning. Irene's chest tightened. She hurried to buy food and then pulled her daughter quickly away. But whispers followed them like shadows. Later that day, the knock came. Hard, sharp, unkind. Irene opened the door and found 2 elders standing there, their tall frames wrapped in ceremonial cloaks. Their eyes were sharp, searching. One of them spoke. "We have heard troubling things about your child, Irene. We must see her." Fear stabbed through Irene. She tried to keep her voice calm. "My daughter is ill, only a fever, nothing more." But the elder stepped forward, his hand raised. "The council has a duty to protect the village. If there is danger, we must know." Irene blocked the doorway. Her hands shook, but she held firm. "She only needs rest. I will not have strangers frightening her." The elders exchanged glances. Their eyes narrowed with suspicion. After a long pause, one of them finally said, "Very well, but if her illness grows worse, you will bring her to us." With that warning, they left. When the door closed, Irene fell to her knees. Her daughter crawled into her arms and whispered, "Mom, they know." Tears filled the mother's eyes. She pressed her forehead against her daughter's and whispered, "I will not let them take you, no matter what." That night, the village gathered. In the square, a fire burned bright in the center, casting long shadows across worried faces. Irene stayed hidden in her home, but she could hear the voices carried by the wind. "Strange lights have been seen," someone cried. "A child marked by the old curse," another added. The fear spread quickly, filling every corner of the village. By midnight, the fear turned to anger. The council announced they would begin searching homes. Irene's heart pounded as she held her daughter close. "They will come here," she whispered to herself. The child's glowing marks flared brighter, as if responding to her fear. The next morning, as the sun rose, a group of villagers gathered. Outside her house, knock shook the door again, harder this time. "Irene, open the door," a voice commanded. She held her daughter tight, refusing to move. Then silence, followed by low murmurs. Finally, the footsteps faded away. But Irene knew it was only a matter of time before they returned. Her daughter looked up at her with teary eyes. "Am I cursed, Mom?" The words broke Irene's heart. She cupped her daughter's face and whispered fiercely, "No, my star, you are not cursed, you are mine, and that is all that matters." But her mind was not at peace. She remembered the glowing temple stones, the forbidden carvings, and the way the mark on her daughter's back seemed to mirror them. Could it be true? Could her child carry something older than the village itself? That evening, Irene made a decision. She could no longer wait for the council to act. She must find answers before fear destroyed them both. She packed food and water quietly, wrapping them in cloth. Her daughter watched with wide eyes. "Where will we go, Mom?" she whispered. Irene touched her cheek and said softly, "Somewhere far where no one can hurt you." Outside, the village fires burned late into the night. The elders spoke of danger and curses. But Irene did not listen. Her heart was fixed on escape. Her hands shook, but her eyes carried a fire stronger than fear. She would leave before the council's fear turned into violence. As the stars lit the sky, she sat beside her daughter and whispered, "The village fears what it does not understand. They will not protect you, they will only harm you, but I will protect you always." Her daughter leaned against her, whispering, "I believe you, Mom." And while the village slept in unease, Irene lay awake, listening to the quiet pulse of the mark glowing under her daughter's skin. The sound was like a heartbeat, strong and steady. It was the sound of something ancient, something powerful, and it filled her with both terror and hope. The fear of the village had only begun, and Irene knew the next step would decide both their fates. The night was heavy with silence. The village fires had burned low, leaving only thin smoke drifting across the square. In her small home, Irene sat awake, her daughter sleeping restlessly beside her. The faint glow on the child's back pulsed, softly through the cloth like a secret heartbeat no one else could hear. Irene's hands shook as she pressed them together. She had never been so afraid, not during the long winters, not during the famines, not even when raiders once passed near their valley. This fear was different. It came from inside her home, inside her own daughter, and she did not know how to fight it. The voices of the villagers earlier still echoed in her head. They had whispered of curses, of doom, of danger. They were preparing to act. She could feel it. The council would not wait much longer before they came for her child. Her daughter stirred, her voice soft. "Mom," she whispered, "am I going to die?" The words stabbed through Irene's heart. She pulled the girl into her arms, hugging her tightly. "No, my star. You will live. You will live because I will not let anything happen to you." But even as she said it, tears slid down her face. The girl's body trembled. "It hurts, Mom," she cried. "Something is inside me moving." Irene stroked her hair, whispering lullabies she had sung since her child was small. Slowly, the girl's breathing calmed, and she drifted back into uneasy sleep. Irene stayed awake, staring at the walls of her home. She knew the truth now. She could not stay. She could not trust the council. The village's fear was already sharp. Soon it would turn into action. They would take her daughter away, and once they did, Irene knew she would never see her again. Her decision was clear. She had to leave. With trembling hands, she began to gather what little she had. A small bag of dried roots, a flask of water, 2 blankets, and the old knife her father had once carried. She wrapped everything tightly, working in silence so her daughter would not wake. Every sound outside made her pause, her heart leaping with fear that someone was listening. When she finished, she sat by the window watching the night sky. Stars scattered across the blackness, distant and cold. Her people once believed those stars were the eyes of ancient guardians. Tonight they looked down like silent witnesses to her choice. As the hours passed, she whispered to herself, "We will survive, even if we must walk alone." By dawn, she woke her daughter gently. The child blinked sleep from her glowing eyes. "Mom, why are we up so early?" she asked in a weak voice. Irene brushed her cheek and whispered, "Because we must go, before the village wakes, before they come for you." The child's eyes widened with fear. "Leave? But where will we go?" Irene hugged her tightly. "Far from here, to the forests, to the mountains, wherever the stars guide us. We will find safety, I promise." The girl nodded slowly, trusting her mother's words even when fear filled her heart. They stepped outside as the first light of dawn touched the rooftops. The village was quiet, the air cold. Irene pulled her daughter's hood low to hide her glowing skin. She carried the bag on her back, and with each step her heart pounded. Every creak of wood, every bark of a distant dog felt like a warning. Halfway across the village, a voice called out, "Irene, where are you going so early?" An old woman stood at her doorway, suspicion in her eyes. Irene forced a smile. "To fetch herbs before the sun grows hot." The old woman frowned but said nothing more. Irene hurried away, her hand gripping her daughter's tightly. At the edge of the village, she turned once to look back. The familiar rooftops, the smoke rising into the sky, the place she had lived her whole life. It all felt like a cage now, a place that no longer welcomed her. With a deep breath, she stepped into the forest path. The trees rose tall and dark, their branches whispering in the wind. Strange lights glowed faintly between the roots. The child clung close. "It's scary, Mom," she whispered. Irene kissed her hair. "I know, my star, but we are together, and that is enough." The path twisted deeper into the forest, every sound making Irene glance around. She had no plan, no destination, only one truth guiding her steps: protect her daughter at any cost. When they paused to rest, the child leaned against her mother and whispered, "Will the village come after us?" Irene looked into the shadows of the trees and whispered back, "Maybe, but they will not find us, not if we keep moving." That night, under the open sky, they lay wrapped in blankets. The mark on the child's back glowed brighter than ever. Casting faint light across the grass, Irene watched it with fear and wonder. Was it truly a curse? Or was it something greater? Something the village was too blind to see. She closed her eyes and held her daughter close. "I don't care what they call you," she whispered. "To me, you are not cursed. You are my star, and I will follow your light, no matter where it leads." The decision had been made. There was no turning back now. The forest was unlike anything Irene's daughter had ever seen. The trees rose so high that their tops vanished into the mist. Their bark shimmered faintly as if veins of light pulsed through them. The air was damp, carrying a sweet but heavy smell. Every step echoed softly, as though the forest itself was listening. Irene held her daughter's hand as they walked deeper. The girl stumbled often, her small body weak from pain. Each time she cried out, the forest answered with faint whispers. Leaves rustled though no wind moved them. Branches creaked as though bending to listen. It was as if the forest knew their secret, Mom. The girl whispered, her voice trembling. "The trees are watching us." Irene pulled her close, her own heart racing. "Do not be afraid, my star. The forest cannot harm us." Yet inside, she wondered if her words were true. By midday, they found a stream glowing with faint blue light. The water moved slowly, its surface reflecting the strange trees like glass. Irene knelt and filled their flask. She cupped water into her daughter's hands. The girl drank but then winced, pressing a hand to her back. When Irene lifted the cloth, her breath caught. The glowing mark had spread wider, curling across her daughter's shoulder blades. The light was brighter here, almost alive. The forest seemed to respond, leaves above them rustling, glowing spores drifting down like falling stars. The child whimpered, "It hurts more here, Mom." Irene hugged her, fear pressing into her chest. "We will keep moving. Maybe the pain will pass." But deep down she felt the forest was feeding the mark, drawing it out. As night fell, they built a small fire. Its orange glow fought against the cold shadows. Pressing in, the girl lay against her mother, shivering despite the warmth. The forest hummed with strange sounds, low calls that echoed like voices, faint whispers that carried on the wind. It was not silence, but a living murmur. "Mom," the girl whispered. "They are calling me." Irene's heart froze. "Who?" she asked quickly. The child pointed weakly toward the trees. "The voices, they say I belong to them." Irene held her close, shaking her head. "No, my star. You belong to me. Only me." She rocked her daughter as if to drown out the whispers. With her heart beat, but the voices did not stop. They grew louder through the night, sometimes sounding like men, sometimes like women, sometimes like children. Sometimes Irene thought she heard her own name carried in the wind. Other times she thought she heard the sound of crying. Sleep came in short, broken moments. Each time Irene opened her eyes, she felt the forest leaning closer, as if it was alive, watching them, waiting. On the third day in the forest, food began to run low. The girl's steps slowed, her small body growing weaker. At one point she fell, clutching her back and sobbing. Irene knelt quickly, lifting her into her arms. "Do not give up," she whispered. "We will find safety, I promise." But her own legs trembled under the weight of fear and exhaustion. It was then they heard something new, a sound that did not belong to the forest. The crunch of boots. On the leaf-covered ground, steady and deliberate, Irene froze, pressing her daughter against her chest. Her eyes darted into the shadows. A figure emerged slowly from between the glowing trees. It was a human. His clothes were worn and dusty. His face tired but sharp, his eyes widened when he saw them, first with surprise, then with something softer, concern. He raised his hands slowly to show he carried no weapon. "I mean no harm," he said in a low, steady voice. Irene's breath came fast. She had heard of humans before, wanderers who sometimes traded with distant villages, but she had never seen one this close. Her first thought was to run, but her daughter clung to her robe, whispering, "Mom, please." "He looks kind." The human took a slow step forward, his eyes falling on the girl. He noticed the way she held her back, the way her small body trembled. His face changed, as if he recognized something. "Your child," he said softly. "She carries something I have seen before." Irene stiffened, pulling her daughter closer. "Stay away," she warned, but the human did not move closer. He only lowered his gaze and said, "If I wished harm, I would not have shown myself. But I think I can help her." The mother's heart wavered. She did not trust strangers, especially not a human. But her daughter's weak grip on her arm reminded her of the truth. Alone, she could not fight this. Alone, she could not stop the mark from spreading. The girl looked up at her mother with pleading eyes. "Mom, please let him help." Irene's chest tightened, torn between fear and hope. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her choice. And in that moment she realized, the forest of echoes had led them here, not to destroy them, but to bring them to this meeting. A stranger who carried answers she could not find on her own. The human stood in the pale glow of the forest. His clothes were ragged, his boots covered in dirt, and yet his eyes carried a steady calm. Irene's daughter clung to her mother, but her gaze never left the stranger. The forest around them was silent, as if listening. "Who are you?" Irene demanded, her voice sharp. "Why are you here?" The human lowered his hands slowly. "My name is Kale," he said. His voice was rough yet gentle. "I travel these lands, searching for signs of things like this." His eyes flicked toward the girl, and Irene's heart tightened. "What do you mean, things like this?" she asked. Her hand moved protectively to her daughter's shoulder. Kale hesitated before speaking. "Your daughter's mark. I've seen it before, not here, not on your people, but in old records kept by humans. It is not a curse. It is something far older, something hidden." Irene's breath caught. "You lie, you only want to take her just like the council would." Kale shook his head firmly. "No, I don't want to take her. I want to help. I've seen what happens when no one helps, and I will not let that happen again." His words were heavy, carrying a shadow of pain from his past. The girl whimpered softly, clutching her back. "Mom, it burns," she whispered. Irene pulled her close, torn between mistrust and desperation. Kale took a cautious step forward. "Let me look. Only look. I swear on my life, I will not harm her." Irene's heart raced. Her instincts screamed not to trust, but her daughter's pain was too great. Slowly she nodded. Kale knelt and gently pulled back the cloth. His eyes widened at the sight of the glowing roots spreading across the girl's back. They twisted like living veins, pulsing in rhythm. He whispered almost to himself, "It's true, it's happening again." Irene's voice shook. "What is it? What is happening to my child?" Kale looked up at her, his eyes serious. It is not a sickness, it is a transformation. Something inside her blood has awakened. I believe it is ancient. Older than your village. Older than even the stories your people tell. If left alone, it will consume her, but if guided, it could save her. The mother's heart twisted. Save her or destroy her? Kale's jaw tightened. That depends on what choice you make and what choice she makes when the time comes. The child stirred, her small voice trembling. Am I going to die? Kale's eyes softened. He reached out carefully, letting his hand hover without touching. No, little one, not if we do this together. You are stronger than you know. Irene studied his face, searching for lies, but all she saw was pain and honesty. Her daughter looked up at her with pleading eyes. Mom, please. I don't want to hurt anymore. Tears filled Irene's eyes. She nodded slowly. If you betray us, human, I will end you with my own hands. Kyle gave a faint, grim smile. Fair enough. That night they built a small fire together. The forest still whispered around them, but its voice felt less threatening now. Kyle sat across the flames, his face lit by the glow. I once knew a child like her, he said quietly. He was not mine, but I tried to protect him. I failed. The people feared him, and I could not stop them. His eyes darkened. I swore if I ever found another, I would not fail again. Irene listened in silence, her heart aching at the weight in his words. Her daughter leaned against her, whispering, He's telling the truth, Mom, Kale continued. Your daughter's mark is not a curse. It is a sign, a bond to something beyond this world. I cannot promise it will be easy, but I can promise this. I will not let her face it alone. The fire crackled, filling the silence that followed. Finally, Irene whispered, Why? Why would a human risk himself for us? Kale's gaze met hers, steady and unshaken. Because no one deserves to be feared for what they cannot control. Because no child should suffer when there is a chance to save them. And because sometimes, family is chosen, not born. Irene's chest tightened at those words. She had lived her whole life mistrusting outsiders, yet here was a human speaking words her own people never would. Her daughter smiled faintly through her pain. He's like us, Mom, alone, but still trying. Irene wrapped her arms around her daughter, whispering, We will see, my star, we will see. As the night deepened, Kale fed the fire and kept watch. His eyes scanned the forest, his hand never far from the blade at his side. He had made his promise. And Irene realized he was the first person, outside herself, who had not looked at her daughter with fear, but with hope. In the quiet of the forest, under a sky full of stars, a fragile trust began to grow. It was not peace, not yet, but it was the first step toward it. And as the child slept, her glowing mark pulsing like a second heartbeat, Kyle whispered to himself, This time I will not fail. The morning mist clung to the forest like a veil. Dew sparkled on the glowing leaves, and the air felt heavy with secrets. Irene sat close to her daughter, brushing strands of hair from her pale face. The child's back glowed brighter than ever, the markings no longer faint lines but full symbols, pulsing as though alive. Kale crouched nearby, his eyes fixed on the light. His jaw was tight, his voice low. It has reached its final stage. Irene's chest tightened. Final stage? What do you mean? Kale turned slowly, meeting her gaze. The transformation will complete soon. If her body rejects it, she will not survive. If it accepts, she will become something greater than either of us can imagine. The words cut deep into Irene. Her hands trembled as she held her daughter. I cannot lose her. She is all I have. Kale's face softened. Then we guide her through it, together. The girl stirred, her eyes opening weakly, glowing faintly like stars. Mom, it feels like fire inside me. Irene kissed her forehead, whispering, Hold on, my star, hold on to me. Kale moved closer, his hands steady. Listen to me, child. This is not a curse. It is a gift. It was hidden in your bloodline, waiting. For this moment, your people feared it, but they never understood it. The girl blinked, tears in her glowing eyes. But why me? Kale's voice grew heavier. Because the universe always chooses the ones who suffer, the ones who endure, not the ones who seek power. He paused, his gaze flicking toward Irene. Your daughter is not a danger. She is hope. But only if she survives this night, the forest seemed to respond. A low hum rose from the trees, the air vibrating as if alive. The markings on the girl's back flared brighter. Filling the clearing with light, Irene gasped, clutching her daughter tighter. It's too much, she cried. She cannot bear it. Kale's voice rang firm. She must. If you break now, she will too. You must show her your strength. The child screamed as the light surged. Symbols spread across her skin, climbing from her back to her arms, curling down her legs. Her whole body glowed like a burning star. Irene fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Please. Not my child, she begged. Kale dropped beside them, gripping Irene's shoulders. Listen to me. This is not death, this is rebirth. If you want her to live, you must let her go through it. Hold her, yes, but do not stop her. Irene's heart tore, but she held her daughter tightly, whispering words of love. You are my star. You are my life. Do not leave me. The light grew unbearable, blinding. The forest itself shone as if every tree carried the same glow. The voices returned, echoes rising from the shadows, speaking in 1,000 tones. The girl arched her back, crying out as the markings burned brighter than the fire of the sun. Then silence. The glow faded slowly, settling into the child's skin. The markings no longer looked like wounds but like patterns, etched permanently into her flesh. Her breathing slowed, steady and calm. Her eyes opened, brighter than before. Clear and strong, Irene gasped, touching her daughter's face. You're alive, she whispered. The girl smiled weakly. It doesn't hurt anymore, Mom. I feel different. Kale's face carried both relief and awe. She made it, he said softly. She is the first of her kind to survive the awakening. Irene looked at him sharply. What does it mean? What has she become? Kale's voice was heavy but filled with respect. She has become a bridge, a bond between your people and something greater. Her power could heal, or it could destroy. It will depend on how the world treats her, and how she chooses to use it. The girl sat up slowly, her body trembling but strong. She looked at her mother and whispered, You didn't let them take me. You stayed. That's why I lived. Irene broke into sobs, pulling her daughter close. I will always stay, always. You are not cursed, my star. You are my child, my family. Kale looked away, blinking against the weight of emotion in the moment. He had seen loss before, seen children perish under fear and hatred. But now, for the first time, he saw hope. As the sun rose, light filled the clearing. Irene stood with her daughter in her arms, Kale at her side. The village might still hunt them. The world might still fear them, but they were no longer alone. Kale placed a hand over his chest and bowed slightly. I promised I would not fail again, and I won't. From this day, I will walk with you, as family. Irene looked at him, surprise flickering in her tired eyes. Then she nodded slowly. Family, she repeated. The girl leaned against her mother, her new markings glowing faintly in the morning light. She whispered, Mom, I feel like I belong now. And for the first time, since the whispers in the night, Irene believed it. Her daughter was not a curse, she was a beginning,